Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It's Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. I am Jer Stays, coming to you from the beautiful studio at TechTown, and across the table from me is none other than the Prince of Brightmoor himself, Norris Howard. How are you?
Brightmoor in the house. And before we move on with the show, I just want to say a hearty congratulations to Hajime Sato of Sozai out there in Clawson, winner of the James Beard Award, beating out all them folks in fancy schmancy Chicago.
Great Lakes, what, best chef?
Yes.
How cool. And out of Clawson, look, and I'm all for Detroit success and everything, but to see, the suburbs and see a place like Clawson, which honestly, they're on the come up.
Yeah. And, they've had, was the other one, Noble Fish out there for a while.
There's been a bunch of, there's a bunch of restaurants out there. I think it's Weiss or Weiss Distilling is a place that I heard about. So yeah, there's some definite things happening out there. Melody Maloche from the Detroit News, I think I want to have her on or ask her to come on because she wrote a great piece about all the stuff happening in Oak Park.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see these suburbs that have neat stuff happening. It's one of the cool things about viewing this through a regional lens is it raises everybody up, right?
It sure does. And one of the things that I love about that is, my pops is out there in Oak Park. So he's always telling me about new stuff going on. He's very excited about everything. And I just want to have a quick anecdote. Word to Hajime Sato, whose name is very close to Hajime Saito, one of the Shinsengumi, the Wolves of Mibu, back in the Bakumatsu era of Japan, where they switched from shogunate rule to imperial rule. I just think he has a cool name. So that's 2 wins for Mr. Sato.
I would have never, ever known that. I appreciate you, Norris Howard.
Just a little tidbit of Japanese history information for you and all the listeners out there. Go and watch Rurouni Kenshin.
All right, we're going to talk about a couple of stories. I think one in the suburbs and one in the city. This one in the city, we're going to start with Councilman Scott Benson is back pushing for placards to show health inspection results at restaurants. There was a proposal, if you remember, Mr. Norris Howard. Mm-hmm. There was a proposal to kind of have colors or grades or whatever, different versions. This new proposal would be pass-fail, green, red, that you have to display for your health inspection. There was a lot of pushback last time from business community advocates and others. There was a lot of push around equity, saying that it hurt equity to have to keep up with these and display these results. In between time, there was a pilot program where if you did really well, you could actually ask the city for a certificate to show. And you know what? A lot of people seem to like it. And I think this is part of why Benson is back at the table pushing for this again. Something that, what are your thoughts, Norris?
I'm going to just say this. I'm going to just say word to council member Benson, because to be quite frank, why do folks want a license to be gross, right? Because we've already stepped away from the letter grade, which shows us your level of nastiness. But now
major cities should have letter grade or color code. That's what happens when you go to other major culinary scenes.
They all have them.
We should do it too. I know that there's people who get upset at me for this, but you shouldn't have a dirty kitchen.
No, and I wholly reject the whole idea that it's gonna affect small Black restaurants and Black business owners. Let me tell you something. Cleaning is cheap. Cleaning is something that it should not be a massive impact to your overhead unless the kitchen you inherited or bought was so gross to begin with that maybe you shouldn't have bought the property.
And you got to nuke it and start over.
Exactly. So my thing is that if we're talking about getting bigger as a city and being more realistic as a city, I mean, I'm sorry, man. A lot of y'all conies ain't going to pass. And I think that's the issue. But ultimately, this is a good thing that we should have. And I don't think that this harms good business owners who are good about maintaining their kitchens and keeping their kitchens clean. And I think ultimately what people are afraid of is it may harm some of their favorite spots. And I think that's still really selfish. We had a hepatitis outbreak, man. We had a hepatitis outbreak in, what was that, 2017, 2018?
Well, and one of the beloved Conies was shut down for a little while.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. Like, do we want to keep having instances where people can potentially get sick? Or do we want to be able to just display that this restaurant is clean and safe for you to eat at.
We did a flash poll when this first came around. It was like 85% of readers wanted something like this to happen. And I think this is terrible politics for this to be the line in the sand for some business groups. I understand that people need to make money and they want to do stuff and whatever. This one doesn't play well at all.
No, and it shouldn't, and it never will. Like, people's safety, particularly when it comes to their food. I mean, listen, there have been, how many times have you gone to one McDonald's or one Burger King over the other one because that Burger King looked cleaner? It may not even be the case, but you just know, okay, this franchisee doesn't even bother or care to maintain the grounds and maintain the building. So I can only imagine what the kitchen looks like. You don't want to eat there. So now you got the opportunity to be able to display part of your hard work on there and let your consumers know, hey, this place is going to be safe and great for you to eat. I think a lot of people and a lot of business, these business groups who are resistant to this are resistant because that is something that they weren't doing that they're going to have to do. And I'm going to say something controversial. This goes back to that same sort of Midwest mediocre stuff that we talk about all the time, where everybody says, oh, we want to be this huge cosmopolitan growing city, but we don't want the stuff that comes with it. Those two energies don't jive.
Speaking of energies that don't jive and dealing with growth, out in Royal Oak, there was an issue with a series of apartments, 42 apartments. This development would be on an old bank site. I want to say in like the 14 Rochester Road area,
very north part of Royal Oak.
Very north. And I'll just be real with my Royal Oak listeners. South Royal Oak and North Royal Oak are different vibes.
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they are, but are they? I mean, to a Detroiter, not really.
To me, as somebody has friends over there.
Yeah.
There's different vibes. Anyway, residents nearby wanted to keep the more rural feel.
I'm sorry, Royal Oak. Ain't nowhere rural out there. I'm sorry. You are on the I-75 corridor. Ain't nothing rural until you get past the old Lazy Boy sign north of Big Beaver. Ain't nothing rural over there. What are you talking about?
So this apartment building met with some opposition. A very contentious commissioners meeting. It passed unanimously to redevelop this into 42 units. Now, it really shows me a lot of like the NIMBYism that is in Metro Detroit. It's interesting that it passed unanimously. Some would say, oh, commissioners are in developer pockets, but I also think commissioners look at the reality that we have a housing shortage in Metro Detroit and Michigan, and people actually want to live in Royal Oak, and lifestyles and things have changed a bit. And look, this has been an issue as old as this region. You can go all the way back, look in the history books, look in the origins of the urban crisis. Look, the city of Detroit did this crap too, where city council, one of the reasons why you don't have a lot of apartment blocks like you do in Chicago is that the city council here in Detroit was eminently racist and prevented their construction because neighborhood groups didn't want multifamily places because they thought they attracted Norse people like you.
Of course. Of course.
And that was something that actually kind of held back Detroit's development, part of hastened its decline because, look, I used to hand demo some of the places back in the day in the early 2000s. You know, those like mini matchstick houses on the west side and stuff? Mm-hmm. None of that would have happened if you could have built proper apartment blocks.
And that's why all of Detroit City, north of, East and West Grand Boulevard, is like a giant suburb. That is why it's built that way, especially if you get into the northwest side and parts of the northern east side. That's why it's built in that suburban grid system, because those apartment blocks were prohibited to being built. So we have
because they brought undesirables.
Yes, as they say. But this is the same energy. And let's keep it for real, not to be messed up, but I mean, some of these people are the children of those people who voted for all that stuff and were part of those neighborhood groups back in the day. So that energy is continuing. And I think when I saw the video and I see these things that were happening, the reasoning behind it just didn't make sense. It's going to be too much traffic. You're talking about at max 42, maybe 60 extra
units.
vehicles. 42 units. So we could be talking about, let's say if two cars per unit, we're talking about 84 cars. That's negligible because all of them are not
going to be one person.
So you're not going to have you know, 80 cars all in the intersection all at the same time. That's not how it works. So the traffic conversation is moot. But outside of that, it's just pure NIMBYism. And I'm actually low-key glad that the Board of Commissioners in Royal Oak stood for this, because a lot of people do want to live in Royal Oak and there's nowhere to go.
Well, they're landlocked.
Yeah.
Like so many areas in Metro Detroit are.
Dale is having the same issue as well.
They're having to build up. And that's, I mean, look, it's stressful.
Yeah.
But I think change is, and the only constant to me is change. And I honestly, and this is going to get me some hate mail, but I think NIMBYism is one of the biggest things that holds Metro Detroit back.
I would be,
which is not
agree.
in my backyardism.
No, but I would be inclined to agree with that. And one of the big reasons, again, I think, you know, there's some racial and socioeconomic reasonings behind that. But I think also what's going to end up happening is the city of Detroit is going to take all those folks. If Royal Oak don't start building some apartments now, there's going to be plenty of them down here for people of that income level to be able to live in.
Is that the worst thing in the world?
It's not for me.
But
it's not
me.
for you. It's not for people who want to see the city of Detroit thrive, but for those who live in Royal Oak, who own homes, who want to see that their property values continue to rise, who want all the stuff that comes with being a homeowner in a suburb. Yeah.
I was driving down 14th the other day, which is now that is actually feeling a little bit rural in parts on 14th Street.
Maybe.
Over by Grand Boulevard.
Maybe.
There are some areas where it's just like grass.
Yeah.
And like for me, I look at that and go, why isn't that 10,000 people? And one of the reasons is that I saw this piece in Outlier that I thought was really interesting. And I'm sorry that I didn't put it in the show notes, but Aaron Mondry is an excellent reporter and talked about how difficult it is for smaller developers to get things done in the city, and talked to friend of the show, Chase Cantrell, who went through 10 departments and $20,000 for his small retail development. I mean, it is cool. It is of size, but compared to things, it's small over on 6 Mile McNichols near Bagley, and talked about other issues. If the city could get it together with these small developers, you know, it was great that they did the Bagley that they announced this week that opened up over by Honeybee Market and Michigan Central Station. But that's a big development. What if we could really make it easier for smaller developments? Because like there should be duplexes and fourplexes and single and row houses. There should be all these things. I'm thinking down 14th Street, you can go straight down to Michigan Central.
Yep.
And there is so much space
that
you wouldn't even be bothering anybody. And you could do so much. There should be thousands of people living down that street.
And I'm just going to say this just off the rip. This is going to be whoever becomes mayor of Detroit next.
Let's talk about that real quick,
too. Whoever's going to become mayor of Detroit next, that is going to be, in my opinion, their primary issue. That has to be a tentpole issue. How do we get developers building more in the city? That is going to be huge.
Well, it looks like we got another name in the hat.
Let's hear it.
All right. So the Michigan Chronicle aired an interview from the Mackinac Policy Conference with Dennis Archer Jr., who said,
shocked but not shocked.
If Mayor Mike Duggan doesn't run, he will strongly consider that he is going to run, which is
He running.
Because we all know.
Yeah.
And so that's field clearing in a lot of ways, because you're not going up against an Archer name. He's got money. He would have the support of the entire business community. He's got connections deep in the community. This one would make any challenger, the field is his at that point. His to lose.
It will give you a moment of pause. Let me put it that way. At bare minimum. I think that's a big name getting involved in the race. Obviously, son of former Mayor Dennis Archer, if you were unfamiliar with Dennis Archer.
And a beloved mayor at that.
Yeah. A mayor in a time where I think.
Just imagine if you were mayor now.
Yeah, but I think the city was in a transitional period. I feel like because he was wedged in there between Coleman and Kwame. So he kind of gets lost in the sauce between these two sort of.
So many important things. His dad did so many important things.
I agree. And I think he's coming with that name recognition, and I think he's coming with that legacy. And I think that's going to be a huge boon for him should he decide to run.
He's also a businessman and a successful businessman.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the posts on Instagram.
Well, and the thing about it is, you know, we often wonder, you know, what type of mayor does Detroit need next? You know, we've had sort of the Biden Democrat in Mayor Duggan, who comes from the sort of private public sector, you know, kind of the in between, worked for the county. it's been a while since we've had a straight up businessman run the city. I think it would be interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see how the business community interfaces with that type of mayor. But he's got to run. He's got to win.
Let's be honest. He hosts every pancakes and politics. He is hosting half the important sessions at the policy conference. He is known everywhere. He doesn't need this office. I haven't talked to him about it, but I mean, this is a legacy move at that point because he doesn't need this.
I'll say this, Mr. Dennis Archer Jr., if you would like to explain to us why you're seriously considering.
You have been on this show before.
We would love to have you back on Daily Detroit because I think the people would love to hear from you.
Yeah. And in the context of what would that look like?
Yeah.
Right? Because
what
people
is your
know
vision?
you. Well, yeah, and he shared some things in the past, but it's always been through that business lens.
Yeah. And what is your vision? Because I think that's a part of a lot of what we don't get is sort of what's the vision coming up.
I also think, and when it comes to other names I've heard like Warren Evans and others, there's a strong inclination by a lot of people to keep a lot of the same team in place because there has been a lot of progress and there are people who really know this job really well. There's always tweaks to be made, like what we're talking about with this. I think there's also things that need to be changes that need to be made with HUD and affordable housing. There's definitely enhancements that need to be done, but there's also like an infrastructure with the city now that I think there is a lot of worry that somebody new would clean out and have to restart that knowledge. And I think there's a lot of people, and I know I'm going to get some help for this because a lot of people on the left don't like Mike Duggan, but I think we need to talk about the fact that like the city is not progressive.
No, it is a moderate city. It
Yes.
always has been. Yeah, I don't know why that's shocking to anybody. It always has been quite moderate. This has never been a far left city, ever.
Yeah, we would have far left figures.
Yeah, but
like bless Marianne Mahaffey, like amazing public service. But you know what I mean.
But the
Others
city
that
as an electorate, no.
yeah, you'll see that come up in council, but you won't see that.
You
in your mayor.
you can't have this many mega churches and be a hyper progressive city. No diss, but I'm just saying, man, the church community.
Love to the pastors that
Love
listen to
to
the
the
show. I know
pastors.
you do. I love you.
Love to the pastors, you know what I'm saying? They do a lot of stuff, you know, but yeah, we got some big old churches here, so you know they got a voice.
So, do you agree with me that if in fact Dennis Archer Jr. runs, it's his race to lose?
I think so. I think, you know, tossing out a few of the names that we've tossed out on this show, your Mary Sheffields, your Warren Evanses. I think the Evans Archer sort of, I think that Venn diagram is a circle, to be honest. So
You're going to be the same people.
You're going to be the same people. This one is significantly younger, and I think most people would tend to want to go for the younger.
I think Dennis is still in his 50s. I'm not sure.
He's
Early
younger
60s.
than Warren Evans.
That's true.
So my point is, I think that's, you know, I think people's energy will more go towards that way. So I think he kind of would negate an Evans campaign, and really it would come down to if this is a completely made up scenario, but a Mary Sheffield and Dennis Archer ticket, and I think just the power of that Dennis Archer has with that business community, having that much money behind them, having that much push, and he's going to be able to probably outspend on ads, all that is going to play a factor.
The thing about voting for mayor, and this is a very practical way that I view it, can you handle running a multi-billion-dollar organization? Do you have the chops to handle thousands of employees and a multi-billion-dollar organization? If that candidate does not have the background and experience to even consider doing that, they are automatically not in the field for me.
But that's for you. I don't think that's how a lot of Detroiters think about it at all. You know, I think when we get into the neighborhoods, I think it's about people seeing tangible benefits. They want to see you and touch you and smell you and be around you and see you at the ribbon cuttings and see you at the stuff. And let's be frank, Mary Sheffield is very good at that.
Excellent.
Is excellent at that. And I think it sounds like I'm being dismissive, but I'm not. I think this is a key component of politicking that a lot of people just tend to not do. And I think it still goes very far in a place like the city of Detroit. And, you know, if Dennis Archer runs, he is going to somehow have to out neighborhood Mary Sheffield. And that's going to be very hard to do if indeed they are running.
And I think that there will be a lot of inroads that he has made with his various establishments that a lot of people in the neighborhoods go to.
Facts. But he has to stand on that. And that's going to be the key.
That will be the key. Norris Howard, always good to talk to you, man.
It's always good to be here.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. If you're not a member on Patreon, you know how important it is to keep local media alive. Your support is crucial. Patreon.com/Daily Detroit. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Norris Howard.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.